August 16th, 1765. A single woman purchases a lot of land in Lewis, Delaware from an estate sale. The deed lists her as Adah Robinson, weaveress, a rare trade skill for a woman. Adah Robinson is unique for the 18th century. Her story highlights the struggles and achievements of women living in a male-dominated society. Born in Worcester County, Maryland, Adah's life was complex and reflected a period of social change both before and during the Revolutionary War. Adah's identity as a weaver is rare. In early history, weaving was usually a women's activity. But sometime between the 10th and 12th centuries, it became a men's trade, with the invention of the counterbalance loom and the formation of male-dominated guilds. This remained the norm until the very end of the 18th century. In 18th century America, most people did not produce textiles because of easily available fabric from Britain. In communities where textile production did occur, there was a distinct gender divide in the textile crafts. Women were mainly involved in the beginning stages of fiber and cloth production, such as spinning yarn from raw material. Weavers were always men during this time period. Images from the early modern period always show women spinning, winding, and warping yarn alongside a male weaver. This was not the case for Adah. She was one of a few exceptions. It was possible for a woman to learn an otherwise masculine trade if she did so from a husband or a male family member who had either died or been made incapable of pursuing the craft themselves. In Adah's case, records confirm that her brothers were weavers, and possibly her father before. She likely learned the craft from them. The fact that she is listed in a legal record as a weaver emphasizes her skill and mastery in the trade. In fact, it is not the only record that refers to her as such. Sometime around 1769, she wed James Boyd at St. Peter's Church on 2nd Street in Lewis, just around the corner from her home. James moved in with her, and because of coverture laws, her property became his. Unfortunately, quickly after the marriage, things took a dark turn, and James's abusive nature surfaced. Adah was forced to leave her home and loom behind for her safety. It is unclear where Adah went when she left her home. She may have sought refuge at St. Peter's Church or with one of her neighbors. 18th century domestic violence statistics are incomplete. Cases like Adah's are few and far between. In early America, English common law dictated that a husband, as a head of a household, could use corporal punishment on their wives as long as it didn't cause severe injuries. The Massachusetts Bay Colony was the only group to outright ban wife-beating in 1641, 279 years before it was completely banned in the United States in 1920. On August 19, 1770, Adah stood before Judge Phillips Collick at the Sussex County Court, exposing the torment she endured from James. In a heart-wrenching plea, Adah detailed the physical abuse she suffered, pleading for her estate to be legally separated from her husband. Her attorney was neighbor Daniel Nunez, the same man who sold her property in 1765. Judge Collick, recognizing the severity of Adah's situation, granted her a legal separation and ordered the return of her property, including several implements of her business that James sold to pay his own debts. Adah was one of only 3 women in 18th century Sussex County, Delaware, to be awarded a separation through a separate maintenance action. This is similar to a modern-day separation where a couple remains legally married but maintains separate finances and households. After this event at court, James Boyd disappears from the historical record, never to be heard from again. Adah's decision to separate from James and reclaim her property and personal rights makes her revolutionary for her time. She challenged the patriarchal structures that often forced women to remain in abusive marriages. In early America, marriage was thought of as a lifelong commitment. It was hard for women to bring a husband to court because they were given superior legal authority as heads of household. This court case is also significant as it is the second record that refers to Adah as a weaver. In 1771, all her property had been restored and resided solely in her name. Adah was able to bounce back financially too. By the time of the Revolutionary War, Sussex County was marginally increasing its production of country cloth to supply the military. Adah may have been involved in this production, which would have helped her grow her business. In 1778, she was prosperous enough that she adopted her 4-year-old niece, Mary, as her legal guardian. We can surmise from documents and orphans' court records surrounding the guardianship of Mary Atkins that Adah required constant care and help with her craft later in life. It is possible that Adah Boyd trained her niece in the craft of weaving. By 1789, Mary Atkins' neighbor in Baltimore Hundred, Stephen Steyer, was made guardian of her estate and finances. This was probably because of Adah's advanced age. Accounts from Stephen Steyer indicate that Adah Boyd was paid multiple times for the use of her niece between the years of 1789 and 1791. Perhaps by taking Mary under her care, Adah was preserving her legacy as a weaver by creating her own version of the artisan life cycle. The artisan life cycle is a process by which artisans learn their craft. It begins with apprenticeship and ends with mastery. In colonial America, this male-dominated cycle saw skills passed through male family members. Adah herself disrupted this cycle by learning to weave as a young woman. By training Mary, Adah would have further warped this cycle by training another generation of woman weavers. In the final months of her life, Adah petitioned the Orphans' Court of Sussex County for guardianship of her nephew, Joseph Robinson. The petition to the court, written by Adah and her lawyer, mentions that Joseph received no education and has not been placed in a trade or occupation, but is kept to hard labor by the said guardian. Having suffered abuse herself, Adah may have seen herself in Joseph. During her last months alive, Adah ensured that Joseph was safe and had the opportunity to learn trade skills. This final act was Adah's effort to stamp out abuse in her family once and for all. It also emphasizes the value she placed on trade skills. The connection between weaving as a male-dominated trade and domestic abuse is important in understanding Adah's story. As an abuse survivor, Adah's experience demonstrates how domestic abuse occurs, including through economic control and violence. By reclaiming the tools of her craft and her land through the legal system, Adah asserted her independence. This highlights the importance of her trade for survival. Adah laid down her life in October of 1807, leaving behind a unique legacy as a female weaver. The turbulence of the Revolution was a backdrop in which Adah asserted her identity, gained back her own independence, and rebuilt her business. After the Revolutionary War, more American women began to weave, but this type of weaving was relegated to the home and was often not waged. Weaving became a chore rather than a trade for American women. Adah was the exception. She was a trailblazing woman in that she wove long before this time and fought hard to remain the exception by fighting back against her abusive husband. Adah Robinson Boyd was truly a revolutionary woman.